You're playing small, I'm playing small. Most of us are playing too small, but today we're going to try to put a stop to it. That's what this episode of The Underlayer is about. This is a show where we uncover the hidden narratives beneath success, ambition, and the roles that we've learned to play. I'm David Young, your host. I work with high performing execs and founders to stop hiding and use storytelling and humor to tell the story that's been holding you back. Today, I'm joined by Jodi Wilding, a business and leadership mentor for high achievers, ready to realign, expand, and lead from within. Her approach blends intuition with strategic visioning to help clients clarify their next chapter, shift their self-image, and embody the most magnetic version of themselves. We're talking about something that most high achievers don't like to admit, and that's that you are playing much too small, and you probably know it. You play small because it feels safer to stay in the identity, safer to meet expectations, and safer to not risk fully being seen. But playing it safe does not make you feel fully alive, and that is the problem. So we're going to explore why we shrink, what's behind it, and how we can all step into bolder action. Jodi, thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you. And yes, I love that. That's a great intro. It's
Thanks.
amazing.
I really like a lot of your LinkedIn posts. I don't know. I find it all pretty relatable. We're similar in age, and even though we've had different life experiences, I think we've gone through some similar range of emotions when it comes to feeling stuck, not overly satisfied with kind of where we are, and really trying to take a look at like how do we get here, and then more importantly, where are we going to go next, and trying to live like a bigger, bolder, like more expansive version, something like that. So I thought you'd be a great guest to come on and talk about it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think society, part of it is society. Part of it, I think, our brains, our DNAs are wired to keep us safe. So our brain's always trying to do what it can to protect us or what it thinks is protecting us. But I don't know. I think a lot of people have, hopes, visions, dreams that they can go their whole lives and never even try, like not even do it, but like they just think about it. And I think we just get stuck in that process. So yeah, I'll take your thoughts and then we'll go from there.
Yes, absolutely. I think what you said, expectations, society, we kind of get into this just like default mode where we're comfortable and we're just kind of cruising along. And I don't know. I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. One of the things, I'm doing a keynote next week on this. And what I realize from the women's point of view is we feel guilty. We feel like we have to kind of put our dreams and desires aside for our family, for our kids, for, whoever else, and put everyone else first. And so I think that's one of the things that keeps us from playing small and from going after what we really want.
Yeah.
And then also too, one of the big things is worthiness, for sure. That's been a big play in my life.
Yeah, I think that's a definite societal thing that I've had other guests on the show and I've talked to women that talk about that exact thing, like the guilt, shame, women, typically caregivers, especially with kids. It's changed a little bit in the last 20 years, but historically, right, women are doing more of the child rearing and household stuff than men are. And so then, yes, like there's a lot of that goes into that, and then there's how much energy is left to do like something that you feel is yours.
Yeah.
And then there's guilt if you go after it. So yes, I think there's a ton of shame and guilt that society and maybe even family, friends, and maybe even partners, who knows. So there's a lot, I think, definitely a lot to overcome there. And like I said, I've had other guests talk about that, and it takes a while. I think it takes a lot of time in your life, maturity, lived experience to kind of step out of it, or start to step out of it and feel like, you know what? It's kind of, I mean, the cliched analogy is the oxygen mask on the airplane, right? You have to put yours on first before you can help anyone else. So if you're constantly giving all that oxygen to everything else, to people, jobs, careers, partners, kids, friends, whatever, then you like, there's how much is left, right? Like how much is left for you? And if you're drowning and you can't breathe, then how effective can you be in all those roles? So
Absolutely.
it's a little counterintuitive, because really it should be the opposite, but historically it hasn't been. So yeah, I think it's a huge barrier.
Yeah. And you're right. It's that flip of where I actually think it's selfish, or believe it's selfish not to, because of the reasons why you said in the introduction, right? Like when you do that, you do feel more alive and more vibrant and more energized. And you're playing life full out, and then you have so much more to give to those around
Yeah.
you. So,
Yeah, it is, right? It's backwards. So you spend all this time doing all these things to be drained, and then what version of yourself is even like available, right? You go meet a friend for a drink or coffee and you're just exhausted and you're tired, and then all you do is complain about all the stuff you're doing that you don't want to do. And that's not fun for you and it's not fun for them. So then it's like, well, what's the point? It's like
mhm,
whereas if you have like energy and passion, like, oh, I'm working on this or I'm doing this, and then that brings energy and passion to your friend, and then they get it, and then it's like this compounding effect. So it's
ex-
we have it backwards, like most
we
of
have
society and
that.
life, right? We have it all backwards.
Yeah.
And yet when we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, and it was more about like careers and jobs, but it applies to so many other areas where like society just dictated this structure to so many of us, and then
Mhm,
we just followed it, and then we just keep following it. And it's like it doesn't really work, and it doesn't work now with, again, technology and this connectedness, this global connectedness that we all mostly all have access to. And then it's like, well, we don't have to keep doing it like the same way,
mhm,
but like we kind of do. I don't know, it's weird, and that kind of ties into the topic, like how do we break free to go after like what we want. Because I don't know a lot of people that I don't talk to a lot of people that are like, yeah, I'm pretty much doing everything I want to do. Like nobody says that. Like,
okay. Well, and that is like the people that you hang around, right, are a big influence in the actions that you take and what you do. And I would say I was in that as well. But now, once I started making these choices, new choices for myself, now I've created this community and these people around me who are doing that or going
mm,
after that, right? And challenging themselves and living bigger. So,
yeah, that's a critical point. The people around you, and it's ironic. I was watching. I'm not a huge Alex Hormozy guy, but I occasionally will watch some of his YouTube shorts, and he had one recently, and he talked about it was mostly about if you're trying to do something that's like outside the norm, which for a lot of people was like entrepreneurship, and now it's like online, some type of online business, consulting, coaching, whatever. And he was like, that's typically still, even though it's been around for a while, most people have been programmed that you have to work like a W-2 job, and you can do that on the side if you want. But if you try to make that your full-time thing, or if you try to go after something, for the most part, the people in your life, your friends, families, whatever, are usually pretty hesitant, like because it's so different. And so he's like, it's ironic because you get the least amount of support at the beginning and in the building phase, which is when you need the most support. And
yeah.
then if you finally make it, then everyone is supportive. Like, oh yeah, like I knew you were going to do it. And he's like, that's when you actually need it the least because you've already done it. He's like, again, it's totally flipped. It's totally backwards, right? So it's hard to build that stuff because again, the people around you, and it's not their fault. It's their programming. It's
Mhm,
resistance because it's not normal, and then you don't get it. And so a lot of people, I think, end up either quitting or doing it like halfway or whatever. So the people around you, and if it can't be those closest to you, then like again, online, LinkedIn, or Instagram or Facebook groups or wherever your local community, like wherever you can then find the people that are like, yeah, like believe in you, I support you, and they can help you. I think that's very important, especially if you're getting resistance.
so one of the things there too is another point that we have backwards is that idea that we have to see it to believe it,
Mm,
whereas it's no, we actually have to believe it
yeah,
in order to see it, right?
100%. I just read Arnold Schwarzenegger's book. It's called Be Useful, which was interesting because I read Audible and he reads it. So that just adds, it's like having a conversation with him, but one-sided, but like just his accent and just like, there's just some humor in there. But so when he came to the States, it was like I think it was like mid to late 60s, and it was all based on bodybuilding at that time. But he had like a pretty clear vision, like he wanted to be a movie star, and that was like his main goal. And people laughed at him. They were like, "That'll never happen. Like, you don't speak English very well. Like, you're just this big, like, muscular guy. Like, they'll never cast you in a main role. Like, you could be like a bodyguard or a security guy or whatever, or in the army, but like, no one's gonna like, you can't be a leading man." And he was like, "Oh no, like I can." And they were like, "Well, if you do, you have to change your name. Like, your name's too long. People can't spell it." And he was like, "No, no, no." He was like, "My name is fine." He was like, "Actually, my name will look great like across like movie marquees." He was like, "You guys have it wrong."
Yeah.
But he had this like he just had this incredible self belief that like even though I'm not from the U.S. and I don't speak the language that well, um, like I can do it. And then he just like he never gave up. And then eventually, I think Conan the Barbarian in '84 was like kind of his breakthrough role. And then he did the Terminator, not that long after that. And then the rest is kind of history. But yeah, it's the belief part is huge, and it's hard because it's really easy to get talked out of it. It's really easy to lose the belief, or you'll start with like 100% belief, but then it quickly can go to like 70% and then like 50%. And then you're like, I don't know, like maybe it's not the best idea. Cause it's just so much negativity, like reinforced negativity. And you're like, yeah, maybe they're right. Like maybe I can't do it, or maybe I should do something else. And then you just end up in this like trial
Yeah.
and error phase that never goes anywhere.
Yeah, and then you just kind of stay there and just pass it off as like a dream or a fantasy, but not actually something that could happen for you.
Yeah.
And it really does. Like our beliefs are always supported, and everything comes down to what we believe about ourselves and what we believe is possible for us.
Yeah.
And that's the work. Like really, that is the work, is just believing in yourself and trusting yourself. Not everyone is going to see your vision because it comes to you. It comes to you for a reason, right? And so having that trust and belief in yourself is the work, and that's where the power lies.
Yeah, 100%. Talk if you want, talk about it's a good segue into. So you wrote a post about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, that I thought was just brilliant. But I think you were around 40 at the time, and you were just you really assessed like your life and kind of wasn't in a place that you wanted it to be. Your relationship was a little bit off. I think watching Netflix, maybe drinking wine, like you had kind of become like a version of yourself that suddenly you didn't like recognize. I'm doing a bad job paraphrasing it, but
Yeah.
I just talk about that. I think because you to me really stepped out of playing small, because you started to make sounds like pretty wholesale, pretty major changes, and started on a totally different path. And I think that's a lot of people don't. So yeah, I'd just like to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, around 40, I think many of us are looking at our lives and thinking, like, what are the choices I made? Where am I now? Where do I want to go? Like, what am I actually doing with my life? And for me, around that time, there was my father passed away.
Mm,
And when we're faced with that, our mortality too, it really has you reflect on your life, and look at, like, am I really living here? Like, life is short. This is
mm,
precious. And what am I doing? And so that was a huge influence in me starting to make these decisions. And then a year after my father passed away, my son was born.
mm,
And to something that you said about earlier was, I just realized, like, I'm this hollow version of myself. Like, I
yeah.
just felt, I had shrunk myself so small that I was like, I don't even see myself anywhere. There's no evidence of me in my life anywhere right
Mm,
now. And for me, I didn't want that for my son. I was like,
yeah.
I want him to have this full of life, happy, like going after my dreams, like living fully version of me, and not, just this quiet, meek, like I'm going to just watch TV and watch other people living. That's
Yeah.
what it felt like I was doing, was I'm watching other people living their lives.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I want to get out there. I want to be playing this game and living fully. And so I think just with my father, after he passed away, I was like, no, you know what? It's time. Like, I'm willing to take more risks, because who knows? Like, many of us and people that I worked with at the time, right? They're counting down retirement. I have 17 years and 5 months and 3 days till I retire, and then I'm going to live my life. And I was like, oh no, I cannot. Who knows? Like, that's not a guarantee that you're going to have that time in 17 years. So, yeah, so then I really looked at my life and I was like, okay, I need to start making some choices, and I
Yeah.
did. I don't think you always have to blow up your life.
Yeah.
I kind of did, and started over, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's one way to do it, right? The kind of the nuclear option where you're just like, fuck it, I'm just going to burn it all down.
Yeah,
And we're just going to
start from
start
scratch.
from scratch. But, I mean, that's certainly one way. But yeah, that's true. I mean, you can do that. You don't have to,
Yeah, you don't
but you
have to.
can start to you pick one area and start making changes, and then you can kind of gradually increase from there. Yeah, I think death certainly is a powerful motivator. I think anytime I've ever been to a funeral, even if it's not somebody that I even know that well, there's something about that finality, and you start to you really feel the shortness. And they could have been like 100 years old. Like it doesn't matter. It's still a very short, even if you live to 100, right? It's still very, when you look at the grand scheme of time, like 100 years is quite small. Um, yeah, the retirement thing is hilarious. Again, it's something else that we were sold. Society did a great job of
Yeah.
packaging that. Work 40 years, save 401k, invest, don't spend too much, all that stuff. And then yeah, when you're 65 or 68,
Hmm.
whatever, yeah, then you've put your 40 years in, you've paid your dues, you've played small, you've made the company a lot more money than they ever paid you. Um, and then what if you don't make it? What if you die on your 64th birthday and you never did it? Or you do it but you have health issues, you can't travel, you can't get around. Um, then what? Like I
Hmm.
so yeah, there's a book, Billy Perkins, I think he was a hedge fund guy. He wrote a book called Die with Zero that I've
Mm.
read. You and I are similar. I saw one of your posts. You like to read start books and not finish them. And I think I'm
Yes.
like the leader in the clubhouse there. So we're tied. Maybe I do that all the time. I can't even tell you the last book I finished, but I really like starting them. Um, but the point of the book is that is basically a broken, like you should be optimizing along the way. And if you die, say you die when you're 80 and you have like $2 million saved, he's like, that's awful. That's egregious. Like you should have been spending most of that money like along the way. You should have been maximizing and optimizing your life in your
Hmm.
30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like taking trips, adventures, whatever it is you're into. Like don't save it all up, and they're like, "Oh, what leave it to your kids." And it's like, "Well, yeah, I mean, but they're usually part of it. If you have kids, they're probably part of those experiences, and that's very meaningful for them too. It isn't just like, here I worked really hard and here's a lump sum of cash, but we didn't do anything together." He's like, "That isn't any good either." Like, yeah,
No.
they have some money, but they didn't do anything with you. Like, what'd you do with your parents? Well, I don't know. They worked all the time, and then like we went out to dinner. Like, okay, great. Did you take any trips? No. Did you go to any games? No. Go to any concerts? Like one. He's like, well, that's not
That's not living.
right. That's not living either. So he's like, don't just save the money, like spend the money. And he has like examples of whatever, but it's that premise again that we have backwards. That is just save and save and save and put everything off, right? Just put everything off until you're older, and then there's no there's no guarantee. Like there's so many stories of people. I just looked up. I get drawn into YouTube music videos, like, and I just go down this like rabbit hole. But like this like 80s rock video, and like one of the prominent like people in the video, she died when she was 60. Like she just like had a health issue that nobody knew about, and then she was just. I was like, oh, like, I had no idea. It was like 5 years ago, but it's like, oh, like that was really young. Like how many things? And I started thinking, I was like, I wonder how many things she didn't do. Like how many things do you think she put off? Like, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. Then you start feeling bad. Then you're dead. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's it.
It's
My father was diagnosed with Parkinson's like in his, I think he was 56,
Hmm.
and then he passed away in his early
Oh
60s.
wow. Yeah, I mean,
So you don't know, and we're meant to be living and living fully and not waiting until we get there, which we're so good at. We'll wait until then and
mhm.
then we're going to enjoy it. And it's like, no, you're actually supposed to be living fully and enjoying. It's so cliche, but enjoying the journey,
Yeah.
enjoying your way to get there. And
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. It's a weird thing. There's a motivational speaker, Les Brown, if you've ever
Mm.
seen any of his YouTube clips, and he talks about like the graveyard's the richest place on earth, because that's where so many hopes and dreams and visions, like
Yeah.
people took them with them. They didn't write a book. They didn't take a trip. They didn't do any of the stuff that they thought about their whole lives. And I've seen that. I've seen him talk about that several times, and I'm always like, "Gosh, that's just like it's
Hmm.
frightening." And usually when I drive past the cemetery, that always like pops into my head. I'm like, I wonder like how many unfulfilled whatever like is all
Right.
like right there. It's really kind of scary.
It reminds me of this study, and I can't remember the names of the people, which I really should, but it's a study um, that they conducted of people who, later in life, they're basically on their deathbed, and it's 75 or more than 75% of them, they were regretting the chances that they didn't take.
Mm,
Not the ones that they did, not the actions they did, not if they failed, but they have the regrets of that, of like, I wish I had followed, this dream, or I wish I had just tried that.
yeah.
And it comes to that ideal self. And like, we are here to really discover that and express it and fully express our gifts and who we are, and live fully. Not
Yeah,
not let
it's
that.
yeah. I think you've definitely done a better job than me because you've done some pretty extensive like international traveling, right? You lived in Australia and you've lived in China. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So see, I've lived in like Kentucky and Ohio and like Illinois and Indiana.
And
So
soon Portugal.
well, maybe.
One day. One day.
Uh, if I went on your retreat, I don't think I would leave. I think I would just stay.
Like, this is my new house. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to my old version when this is probably 10, 20, 15 years ago, but I always thought of Fiji. I was like, I would just go be like a beach bum on Fiji. I would just I would just liquidate everything and just fly
And
to Fiji, one-way ticket, and I would just like live on the beach. I'd learn how to surf and I would just like bartend or something like to make some money, and maybe they give
yeah.
me an apartment. But yeah, that's now moved to Portugal. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, like I was up until when I went to Toronto 2 years ago. That was the first time I'd been out of the country, out of the States since 1994. So I'd been out of the country one time in 48 years, and that was to Jamaica. And that was my mom trying to save her second marriage. I was almost 19, and they were having some issues, and so they were taking like a romantic getaway to Jamaica, right? And she thought bringing her 18-year-old son on that trip, so the three of us, that she thought that was going to help. And I was like, oh no, like you guys are being gone for a week. I have big plans on my own. Like I'm all set. Like I'm great. I'm good. I'll get the house to myself. And she was like, no, you're coming with us. And I was like, that.
Well, and there you go. That's wise, because she was more worried about what you're going to do, and maybe that will end things. So it's safer to have him come along.
Yeah. So that was it. So I spent a week. So I spent a week in Jamaica with my mom and her then husband. And it was about as awkward as you can imagine. That was it. That was the only time I'd ever left the country. And then I drove to Toronto. So like I've never been to Europe. I've never been to Australia. I've never been to Asia. So you've at least like you've been around. You've been to a couple different continents, and like you've at least experienced different cultures and stuff. So
Yeah.
you're way ahead of me.
Well, and this was the thing too, because I look back, and in my 20s, I was bold. I was courageous. Like, I would get on a plane, I would decide I'm going to go to Chile next week and get on a plane and fly there, land there, no plan.
By
Things will
yourself?
just go by myself,
Wow.
thinking I'm going to learn Spanish on the plane. But I did stuff like that, like go to China and teach English in this small town, and the experiences that I had in Australia, and like hitchhiking. I hitchhiked across Australia.
Holy
Sometimes
crap.
I scare myself now when
That's insane.
I know. I scare myself when I think of some of the things that I did, but also too, around that time when I was 40, I was like, who is this girl? Like, where did that girl go? Like,
where'd the traveling adventurous Jodi go?
she was courageous. She trusted herself. I was just like,
You trusted other people too if you were hitchhiking.
I did. Yeah. I felt that I was always supported, whether that's just that, young innocence and like, I'm invincible. But I do think there's more to that. What I've realized now is that I did have this trust and belief. I believed with like conviction that everything was always working out for me. And it did.
Yeah.
And I trusted myself. I wasn't listening to other people. And it was when I started not trusting myself and I started listening to other people and their advice and the way they viewed the world and what is realistic. Like, you can't do this. Like, you've got to settle down and get a job and, get the pension and get all of these things. That's when I started shrinking myself until the point where I couldn't make decisions for myself. I'd ask everybody else.
Yeah.
Until then I was like, where am I? I've completely gone. And so it was reconnecting with little bit of the new version.
Is that what ultimately led you to go to nursing school? Because that was like a traditional like career path, and people were like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was, I remember I was in Australia and I had these two paths. I was doing yoga every day, hours a day, standing on my head. And so maybe I'll go be a yoga teacher, but where's the future in that? How are you going to make money? There's no stability in that. And nursing, I was like, well, at least I could travel and I could be of service and still help people, and different positions that I had kind of led to that. So I was like, okay, well, that makes the most sense. But uh, yeah, it was definitely a misaligned
Hmm.
choice for me.
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot. It's easy. It's easy to get talked into quote unquote a real plan. Um,
Yeah,
you can't be like yoga teacher is risky, nurse is stable. You always have a job. Um, and they don't care. It's not, I mean,
that
they care, but they don't care that that's misaligned or that you don't really want to do it. It doesn't matter. Like
it does.
they don't think about that. So
No,
if you had said to them like, yeah, that makes sense, but I don't really want to do that, and I want to be a traveling yogi like all over the world, right? They would have thought you were crazy.
totally,
Like that's you
totally.
basically like giving up on life. You're just going to be a bum.
Hmm.
Like you'll just be like a vagabond and scrape money together and like good luck.
Yeah,
Don't call
yeah.
us. Don't call us when you need help.
Don't exactly. Don't call us when you need money and you're broke
Yeah,
and
because we told you that would never work. So yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. And that's the thing, and that's what I've really learned is that it doesn't. It's not personal. Like they don't mean it towards you. They mean it towards anyone. Because I don't think that's a good plan for anybody. Like
Hmm.
so, like it just happens to be you because you know them. So you bear the brunt of it. But it's a. I was talking to somebody over. I think it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas. I can't remember. But I was kind of outlining my plan, being a speaker and growing the podcast and writing a book and like all these kind of bigger plans. And like I could just tell they were just like, you'll never make any money. Like you'll never make any money doing that. Like that's fine if you want to do that, but like that's there's no monetary value in that. Or if there is,
And
like
is that true?
it's so small. What's that?
And is that true?
Well, I don't think it's true.
Is
I
that
think it's
true?
actually the opposite. I think there's actually significantly more
Yeah.
potential money in that. And again, long term, I'm talking about like next week. And that's the other thing too is that when you're doing what I've learned is that when you're doing stuff on your own, everybody wants it to happen immediately. So they're like, yeah, well, when are you going to make money? And it's like, well, it's compounding. It takes time, right? You don't grow a podcast in 6 months. You don't become an international speaker in 2 months. Like it takes reps and time, and you start small and it grows. But all that stuff compounds, and then when it takes off, then it's much bigger than anything you can do for 30, 40, $50 an hour, because that doesn't go anywhere. That stays the same, right? That company is not going to all of a sudden one day be like, you know what, you've done a great job the last 5 years, we're now going to start paying you $1,000 an hour. They're never going to do that because they don't need to, because you'll keep doing it for the 40 or 50 an hour. So why would they ever pay you? The free market
Right.
is different. The free market sees your value and it's like, oh, well, yeah, we used to pay you $1,000 for that speech. Well, that's now worth 5,000. Nope, that's actually now worth 20. Like that's how it works.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. But in fairness, like even 3 or 4 years ago, I would not have said that. I would not have believed that to be possible. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. Now I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do
Mhm.
it. It's like it's just a matter of when. Like it's not if. But it took me a long time to a lot of ups and downs, mostly downs, to really form like a real steely like outlook of like, okay, fine, I don't care. It doesn't matter that you don't believe it. I do, and that's all. At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It does. It can take time for me. And it's embarrassing to say sometimes when I think about it, but it took me 10 years. The coaching was when I first heard of coaching when I was leaving Australia. And then it came up in my nursing. Like it keeps coming up throughout, even in my nursing career. And there was a time, I think in 2011 or 2012, like right after I graduated nursing, I was did a coaching certification, but I wasn't surrounded by those people. I didn't know what was possible and how I could do this. I really focused on that. And so it took me a while, but it gets to the point, and I think this is it. It gets to the point when you're so uncomfortable with where you're at and how things are that you're like, well, I gotta just do it. I gotta
Yeah.
just try. Or it just gets so loud in your head that you're like, okay, shut up already. I'm gonna start making moves.
Yeah, I totally agree. For me, it was always just to quit my job, and then I never did anything. So like I would get to the end of my rope with a job, and then I'd be like, all right, like I have to quit, and I would quit, and that would feel good for like 2 days, and then it was like, all right, great, you got out from under that. What are you gonna do?
No.
Yeah, now what? And then I'm like, all right, well, now I have time, so now I don't have to work. And you think you have all this time, so it'll just like magically happen. That doesn't work either. Just having a lot of time is irrelevant if you don't do anything with the time, because that time's just going to pass, and whether you're being
Absolutely.
learning or not. And so that's a very repetitive pattern in my life, is quitting jobs, thinking I'm going to find something better, not, and then going back to like just basically a different, not the same job, but like a different job, but it's the same. It's everything's the same. I've done that 3 times. But I have gotten close. That's funny. Like each time I've gotten a little bit like closer. So it's like
Mhm.
maybe I need to get a couple more and quit, and I'll finally get there. Um, but yeah, but I think you're right. And then for me, you just get to the point where you're like, I can't take it anymore. Like I literally, like I'm going to lose it, or like just,
Mhm.
I have to get out. And that probably happens in relationships, obviously careers and jobs. And you just get to the point where you're just like, that's enough. Like that, there's a final straw. You're like, that's it, like, just out,
Mhm.
which is good. But if you just do that and do nothing else, that doesn't really solve your problem. Then you're
Mhm.
just miserable, and you're not working anymore. And that's a problem, because then people are like, oh, you're not working, you're not making any money. It's like, yeah, I know.
I know. Thanks for pointing
Yeah,
that out.
right.
Yeah. And then that's you got to look at, because it comes down to our identity, right? And again, the beliefs that we have about ourselves, that's probably why you're recreating that same pattern. And so
Yeah,
looking
I thought reading books would really help me, so I read a bunch of books that did nothing.
no,
Yeah,
no.
but it felt
And we
good.
all do that.
It felt
It
good.
does feel good,
Yeah,
right? Because you feel like you're doing something, you're
correct.
learning, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this resonates, this is
Hmm.
good. But yeah, information, and we love that, where it's always about more information,
Yeah.
but then it comes to no, you actually have to just start doing and trying and kind of figuring it out as you go along, and believing in yourself, working on those beliefs.
Yeah, the belief in, I think what you just said, the action is the most critical piece. If anybody's listening and they're like, "I want to be bolder, I want to take bolder action," that would be my number one recommendation: is just like do something, like whatever it is you want to do. It doesn't have to be, again, you don't have to book a one way ticket to an exotic country. Can if you want. It doesn't have to be quite that bold, but like just whatever it is, like just take action. And usually, once you start taking action, you'll start taking more action. Thinking
Hmm.
leads to more thinking, which will get you nowhere. Action typically leads to more action, which will at least
It,
move you in some direction. It might not be the right direction, but then you'll know that, and so then you can pivot. But that's because
yeah,
everybody wants to have like the perfect, like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work out, or I would do it, but I'm not sure. It's like, well, you're never sure, so that's out. And
no,
that was another thing, is I always wanted clarity and certainty. Like, I'll do it if I know it's going to work out, which is insane, because we can never know that. So like that, if you wait
no,
for that, you just wait forever, and then you die. So like that was a weird thought that I had. I was like, well, I would definitely take that chance if I knew it would work out. Like, no shit. Everybody would do that. Like, if I knew it was, I do this and make $1 million, well, you would just do it. Like, that's not how it
yeah,
works.
no, that's not how it works. And waiting for clarity, that's not how it works either. The clarity comes again from taking those actions.
How, yeah, 100%.
But I get it. Like, I'm leaning up, and I still play in this space of like, okay, where am I, playing small? I love this question of, what would you do if you weren't afraid?
Yeah.
And one of the things for me was do video content.
Hmm.
Like, I want to show up on video, but I have a lot of beliefs about myself and what that is, and perfectionism is like, so much comes up there. And so you can sit on these things for a while and stew about it and prepare for it and wait for the right time. But then it comes down to, at some point, I just have to start hitting record
Yeah.
and just do it.
Yeah, that's YouTube is new for me with this podcast. I did not do YouTube for the first one. It was audio only. But I knew if I did a second one that I wanted to do the video aspect. It's really, really interesting. YouTube's its own its own beast. I don't know that much about it, but I know enough that I can get these episodes uploaded, and then Riverside gives me some shorts, and I'll throw some shorts up, and I link those to the videos. I have no idea after that what happens. But it's out there. I guess people can
It's out
find it.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like you do it. Um, you never know who sees it, but that's the kind of the point. Like you're just trying to put good content out, and then like after that, it's out of your hands.
Yeah.
Some of the shorts do pretty well. Some have 5 views. I I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think when we talked about being 40. I think there's a 40 is kind of a, I don't want to say a magic number, but it's a number that I hear a lot. People are like, yeah, right around when I was either getting ready to turn 40 or I turned 40 or whatever,
Mm.
close to that age. Maybe it's the midway point. I'm not sure. But I think a lot of people do a lot more reflecting then. Like you've been out of school for a while. You've probably worked for a while. Um, Probably been in some long-term relationships, so you have enough like lived experience to start evaluating. I think.
Mhm.
Like when you're 25, it's hard because what have you really done? But you add
Right.
another 15 years to that, then you've probably done a decent amount. So then you have enough kind of data and evidence to be like, all right, like these are decisions I made. This is where I'm at. And then you're like, okay, this is not great. I didn't really plan plan on being here. I don't want to be here. It's not what I thought it would look like. And so then you start doing like, okay, like, well, what else? What would I do? And that's the
Mhm.
part. So I think that's fine because obviously hindsight's 2020. So you're like, well, I wouldn't do this again. Well, of course you wouldn't. If you knew it wasn't going to work out, you wouldn't have done it. But again, we don't know, so that's why we do it. So there's no reason to think about that. But you can take that information and look forward, be like, all right, well, I don't want this to repeat itself for the next 10, 15, or
Yeah.
20 years. So what do I do differently? And that's where I think people get stuck is they have that vision, like what you're talking about. Like, I know I want to do video. I know I want to do more video content, but then you don't. And then you think about it. And then time goes by. And then you keep thinking about it. And then you don't. And then that then becomes like a pattern. So I think people have that and they can evaluate it. And I think there's the missing step is then bridging that gap between like, I know I don't want to be here and I would like to be over there. How do I start taking those steps? And it doesn't have to be the huge leap, right? You don't have to go all the way to the end, but you need to at least go to the end of the block. But even that is hard for a lot of people. So I think that's getting people to be like, all right, just take one small aligned action without knowing
Mhm.
the outcome, without knowing where it's going to lead, but you just know it's going to be different. That can start to build some momentum. And then you're like, all right, now I'm gonna try this, or I'm gonna do more. That was good. I'll do more of it. That wasn't great. Um, but I don't know. There's something that keeps us.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's something that keeps us in the box for a long, can be a long time, maybe your whole life.
Yeah. Well, it is. I think it comes down to like if we think we're worthy, fear for sure, fear of and the focus on the outcome. Um and rather than is this something that, why do I want to do this? Like why is this coming to me? And focusing rather on that than the outcome.
Yeah.
Because that puts a lot of pressure. Like even when I think of doing the video, right? If I think about, okay, well, why am I doing that? I could get focused on the outcome and that adds pressure. And then that's going to stop me from even starting because I've
Hmm.
already just made it so much bigger and put so much pressure on it. Where it's like, no, I actually just want to do this for my own growth. And how can I just start doing that and sharing and talking? But
Yeah.
yeah.
No. 100%. And I mean, we're an outcome based society, and that starts really young. Like if you play sports, did you win or lose in school? Did you get an A? And so it's all very tied to the result, and most of that's out of your control. Both my kids play sports. I played a ton of sports. I tell them all the time the winning and losing is for the most part you don't have control over that, especially if you play a team sport. Play an individual sport, you have a little bit more control. But even then, there's other factors. But if you play a team sport, like you just like there's just too many factors. So you can only control your own. Excuse me. You can only control your own effort, your own attitude, energy, passion, like what you're bringing, and then after that, you release it. So yeah, but that gets ingrained in us, and so we're like, oh, if I'm gonna make a video, like, what am I gonna get out of it? Like, can I get a client out of it, or can I get 1,000 views, like you want? And that again, like especially with
Right.
YouTube, it's like once you release it, it's not up to you. Like it's just like you
No.
nothing. Like again, it could get 5 views, it could get 1,000, and everything in between or more. It doesn't matter. Like you just don't. You literally don't have control. You only you can have control over is like how
Mhm.
consistent am I, how much content I put out, and then whatever the goal is, then you get there eventually. But that all comes with doing. But yeah, we that's again, I think that's the title of everything is like society just programmed us backwards.
Right? It's backwards.
Everything's backwards.
Everything's backwards. And it is. And so it's great to question it, right? Like how we were questioning even just the 9 to 5. Like, is this really what I want? Does this work for me in my life? And what do I really want? And questioning those things where we just take it as fact and it's not.
Yeah, like I'm a little bit older than you, but uh I totally bought the whole like go to school, 4-year degree, get a job, grind it out for 40 years. It's a terrible plan, and I mean, I'm fairly cynical and definitely a questioner, and I'm an only child, and I'm very independent, and I was not a huge like I'm just going to do it because everybody else is doing it. Like that wasn't kind of my nature, but with that one, I never questioned it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, all right.
Yeah.
So I got a degree I didn't want, I got a job I didn't want, and then I couldn't get off. Then life started, and then it was just like I'm on this train, and like I'm like desperately pulling like the hand, like I want to stop, I want to stop, I want to get off, and then I would get off, and then I would just get right back on a different train going the same direction. Like, oh, nope, that doesn't work either, and then I just keep doing that. So it's like it just took forever to like try to make some kind of sense of it. But it's like when I was 18, and maybe it's you're not old enough, I don't know, but like I should have been like, that sounds like a terrible plan. Like I don't. Do I want to work for 40 years for a company? Why do I want to do that? That doesn't sound like fun.
No. And see, I did like I was no, I'm going to be unconventional. At 18, I moved out west and I was not going to university right away and I went and did all of these things, but it's so loud, that pressure and the noise out there, especially at that time. I think now it's different and we're changing, but it was so loud. And so yes, I was there, but it pulled me in, right? By as I was approaching 30, that's when it just got so loud of, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to go to school? You're not getting any younger. So you got to do this.
Yeah,
So
well,
it
it's
did. It pulled me back in. And then, yeah, I was on that train until I'm like, okay, no, I can't do this. This
well,
is
at
not,
least I mean, I applaud it because at least you had at a fairly pretty young age, if you were 18 and already making those kind of independent, like pretty big moves. Like I would not have done that. Like I don't know. I was funny. I was talking to somebody. I told you about the exercise I was doing where I kind of look back at my especially like my childhood and stuff. And so, and you see this a lot on LinkedIn or career coach. And so if you're struggling to figure out what to do, it's like, well, what do you want to do when you were a kid, like 10, 11, 12 years old, right? That's like a clue, right?
yeah.
So for me, it was like I wanted to play in the NBA because I was really good at basketball. I was the best player on either team pretty much my entire youth. So I was like, oh, I must be pretty good. I had no concept because of no internet. Like I had no idea how good people are like around the world were. I was like, well, I'm pretty good in this local region that I play in. So I must be like really good, right? Um, so and of course when you're a kid and you say that, like, no one is like, no chance. What's your backup plan? They encourage it. So but if they had questioned him, like, okay, so if on the off chance you're not a one percenter, what would you do if you don't play in the NBA? And I was like, oh, well, I want to be a sports broadcaster because I like love sports. I talk about sports. I just know sports from a very young age. I just understood all the sports. I would read the sports page, and in like 10 minutes, I could memorize literally the entire sports page. Like I could tell you
Mm,
every box score, every number, almost savant like. But if you give me any other section of the paper, I could spend hours with it. I couldn't tell you one word because it didn't matter to me. Like I wasn't interested. And so I'm talking about this, and she was like, and so then you did nothing, like you did nothing to make that happen. I was like, right, because I got to high school and then I went to college, and then they were like, you have to pick a major, and no one was like, what do you want to do? Like no one said that. They were like, what major do you want? I'm like, I don't know. But I was good at math and science. So I was like, I guess I'll pick biology for no reason, like nothing that was aligned with what I wanted to do, but I did it,
mm,
and then I got a job selling pharmaceuticals, which was somewhat related to using the biology. And that was considered to be, at the time, like a very good job. Like I had a company car. I didn't pay insurance. I didn't pay for gas. I didn't pay for my cell phone. The salary was pretty good. Like all these things, right? It looked great from the outside, not even
right.
remotely aligned with like what I wanted to do. And then I never did it. So she was like, you went like your whole life and you never did any of it. I was like, no, it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah.
And no counselor, like no one in my life, no counselor was ever like, do you want to do this? Like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I don't want to
Mhm.
sell pharmaceuticals. Okay, well, that's where you're headed. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, then don't do it. Like that, like no one, like that never came up. And then once I got the job, it was like, that's a great job. Everybody was like, oh, can you get me in? I'll give my resume. Everybody thought it was like fantastic. And I was like, this job sucks. I drive 50,000 miles a year. Like I don't ever leave my car. I drive all over. I wear a suit every day. Like I have to cater lunches. I'm basically a caterer in a
Mm.
suit. This job is terrible. Like, oh my God, you have a company car. Fuck that. I'm miserable. I did it for 5 years.
Oh man. And then, so when or where is the sports fitting in? Did it come back? Did that kind of linger or stay with you?
Yeah, I mean, I played like once I stopped playing organized sports, I played a lot of pickup basketball. I was a member at like a gym of the city I lived in. And there were a lot of guys that played college basketball, so we had pretty good pickup games. I did that for several years. I started running, and then once I started running, I've done a bunch of races like
Mhm.
marathons and triathlons and obstacle course races, things like that. So that's kind of kept me active and like somewhat connected to sports. And then I've coached my youngest teen the last few years. Both my kids play a lot of sports, so I've been involved. From that. I don't watch sports as much as I used to on TV,
Mhm.
but I still kind of follow it. Um, but yeah, it's just weird. Like I had all this, and it was so obvious to anyone. Be like, oh, he just needs to work. He just needs to do something like broadcasting wise or sports team or something. And then yeah, no,
Yeah,
not even close. Makes no
not
sense. It makes no sense.
no, and you're right. It goes based on, okay, well, you're getting good marks here, so then that's the natural. Like you should go into science and then see what comes from there. But you're right. It's not what would you love? What are you super excited about? What are you really curious about?
Yeah, and part of it I think is just the time. Like, this was, I graduated from high school in the early '90s. I graduated from college in '98. It's changed a lot now from what I've seen. There's much more focus on what you're talking about. Like, okay, let's think about like what are you interested in? What lights you up? What do you like to do? And then we need to align these courses. And it even starts like in high school with electives. Like, let's take some courses to get you exposed to um this and then see. And so you start to get experience. There's a lot more internships now, like trying to work
Mhm.
someplace, be like, oh, just try it. Maybe you don't like it, maybe you do. Or maybe it's something you've never thought of, but you are just, like, there's just a lot more. It seems to be more, as my oldest son's a sophomore, he'll be a junior. And so he's starting to preliminary think about college. But these questions are starting to be asked at the high school level of like, start thinking about it. So I think it's changed. But
Yeah.
that was like no one. No, I didn't have a single teacher. I don't even remember having a counselor in high school. If I had one, I never talked to them. The only counselor I had in college were simply to make sure I was taking the right classes to stay on track to graduate. So it was never like an interest, like career development or like, hey, like, what do you want to do with your life? No, no. It was like, all right, you have X credit hours. You need X credit hours at the end of this semester to stay on track. So you need to make sure you sign up for, you need 15 this semester. You need 17 next semester. Like just make sure that your hours add up. That was it. Oh, and then like, okay, with this major, you need to make sure you have to take, certain buckets to get classes. So like they were just making sure that you weren't filling out your schedule and like screwing yourself when it came time to graduate. Like, oh yeah, you actually missed like 5 classes. That was it. That was their only, to me, that was their only job, is to make sure that you were just taking the right number of classes and the right classes to graduate with whatever your major was. Never, no one, not a single counselor. I went to 3 colleges. So I was not relying on just one. I wanted to make sure I experienced multiple colleges. So I had lots of advisors. I'm an expert on college orientation days, which is not something you want to be an expert on. And no one ever was like, what do you want to do? Like, how do you want to be spending your time? And I guarantee you, if anybody had asked me that, I'd be like, well, I'll tell you what it isn't: wearing a suit and driving 50,000 miles a year. That is not on the bingo card.
Mm.
And my favorite memory from that, all that time, this was in Ohio, and I had a very rural territory. So again, I have a suit on, I had a bag, I had a name tag. I'd walk into a doctor's office, I would check in, and then they would either be like, there's a rep already back there, or just wait, we'll call you back. So I'd go sit down, and almost every time someone would look at me and they'd be like, are you a drug rep? And I would look at them and I'd be like, no. And I would just wait for the reaction. To be like, why would you think that I'm a drug rep? I have a suit on, I have a name tag with drugs listed on it. I have a bag with fucking samples and pens and shit spilling out. And you think I'm a rep for a drug company? Why would you say that? That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Of course I'm a drug rep. What else could I be? You think I'm here to see the doctor in fucking middle of the road, Ohio? I am not. You are. Shh. That was my life for like 5 years. Oh, and then catering the lunches, which was awesome. I'd literally go, I'd pick up all this food, I would take it, I would sit there and eat, and no one would talk to me. The staff never talked to me. They would just talk about their TV shows and the office and relationships and like all that stuff. I would hear all that. They barely would even acknowledge like my existence. I would just be sitting there like eating by myself. And every once in a while, someone would feel bad for me and be like, "So, like, what do you like your job, or like where do you live, or whatever?" Every once in a while, someone would be like, "Let's talk to the rep." But yeah,
Let's start.
yeah. Anyway, we got way off track there, but it just it exemplifies the point of just getting into things, and you're just like, why am I doing this? What am I doing? This is crazy.
I know. And I felt that once I got into the nursing program, and I had a few people in my life at that time that were like, "You a nurse? Really?" I'm like, "Don't worry, I'm going to do
I've
something cool.
I've got
I
it.
don't know what, I've got
Yeah.
this." Like, and no, it was, yeah, maybe a month or few months in, I was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" And then I had to just kind of prove it. I was going to prove it to people and prove it to myself that I could do this. And but no, it just never felt right. I never felt like I belonged. And I think I saw a post that you made the other day, which reminded me of that, about switching. Like, I went to different areas within nursing, just trying to find, where do I fit in here? Where do I belong? What are my strengths and how can I use these? Yeah. Did,
Yeah, I always thought, so when I was in sales, I thought, so like when I was a rep for pharma, I thought it was just the company I was with. I just needed to work for another company, and I never did, but like that was silly. Everybody was doing the same thing. So then when I stopped selling pharma, I was like, well, I just need to sell a different product. So I did
that's it.
that. That didn't do
Yeah.
it. Then I tried another sales job for a different product. That wasn't it. So I was like, oh, well, I need to work in an office. Like I had all these territory like driving sales jobs. So like, well, I just need something stable. So I went to an office, and that wasn't
Mhm.
it. And then I was like, oh, I'll get a degree. If I just have my MBA, that'll open all these doors for me. I did. It didn't.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was for me. It was always like just this external. I just needed to make this one external change, degree,
Yeah.
company, area, whatever, and then at some point, like that'll be it. And I literally I did that for
Mhm.
over 20 years, and then 4 different industries, 6 different companies, and nothing ever changed. And then finally, like, I mean, I was very slow on the uptake. I was like, it's me. Like,
Yeah.
I'm 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 the problem. Like, yeah, but
Don't worry. Me too. Me too.
but
I
it
find
just I
myself,
like literally beating my head against the wall. Like, oh well, this one works. Oh no,
yeah.
this. Yeah, this is finally it. None of it. And that's the thing is like is there a job out there like with a company that I would like and be good at? I'm sure there is. Like
Mhm.
the chances that I find it probably pretty small, but overwhelmingly, like it's the cage. Like I don't belong. I just don't belong in that box. Like I don't belong in
Mhm.
that. Just like I have to sit here and do this like one or two like areas of this company and like just do this work for 8 hours every day. Like I don't, especially now. Like when I was younger, maybe, but now it's like I can't do that. Like I can't.
Well, I don't know. Maybe like, I don't know if it's you can't. You could, and I think it goes back to, if you were really clear about what that is and what you want and what lights you up within a company and you're passionate about the mission, you definitely could.
Maybe I don't.
But
Yeah,
yeah, but maybe it's just not what you want. But I definitely, the human, that was like, I see so many humans doing that, right? Of repeating the same pattern of, well, maybe I'll go over here, or maybe this next relationship will be different. It will be better. And I did that. I did that so much until, yeah, my 40s. That's where everything came. I'm like, okay, I am the common
I'm
denominator
I'm it.
here.
Yeah,
I'm it.
I'm and maybe it's not the problem, but it's like it's me. It's like whatever I'm bringing, it's my energy, it's like what I want is
Yeah.
so not aligned, whether it's the partner or the job. And so like you can keep changing it, it can never work. Like it just can't. It's not
It
even their
follows.
fault because you're like this is so misaligned. That's like the best way I can say it. And so until you figure out and you're clear on that, and then you can find a partner or a career path that's like more aligned. It'll never be perfect because that doesn't exist, but it can be closer, and then you can start to work like in that area, and then it's not as much friction.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What I saw this TED talk. It was like the universe rewards bold action, and you've talked about like especially when you were younger and terrifyingly hitchhiking in Australia, which I need to think more about that. Um, maybe it's a safer country. I'm just trying to picture doing that in like the States, and like how long would it be before you'd be dead? Uh, but you must have felt something like that because you were supported, like you just thought it would work out. So you had that
Totally.
feeling. Does that like resonate? Like if you just like if I just say, not me personally, but like fuck it, and you just take this like extraordinarily bold action, the universe is like, I've got you.
Yeah, 1,000%. I totally believe that. And that was helpful for me in this, this later stage of this chapter that I started in my 40s, because I had that proof. I knew back then that once I decided, things were always working out for me. I always was able to figure it out when I trusted myself and listened to myself. And so it was just reconnecting with that. But I had that proof from then. And then it was, how can I bring that in now? But it is true. The universe does reward taking bold action, because you're deciding and you're moving towards, and you're very clear about like, I'm willing to go down this path. I'm going to start doing this. And I trust that you've got me and that it's going to work out. I don't know. We focus on the how too, right? And you have to let go of that and that perfect plan.
Yeah.
And yeah, and take the action, and you will be rewarded.
So if I move to Portugal, it's all just going to work out.
It's all going to just work out. But then it comes to, right, and this is the part about that, like manifestation and all of that we get wrong, is that belief, right? Like you really have to feel it and believe, which I did. Like there was unwavering doubt that things would always work out for me. And so you really need to have that unwavering doubt and belief in yourself that things will work out, and that you'll figure it out. And if you don't, then your results will support that.
Yeah, it might not work out exactly like you're thinking, but it will be like close enough, or because that's the other thing
Even
too.
be better, which is what we don't get. We
Yes,
try and control it.
that's a great point. We always think, well, so our brains catastrophize, right? Like we always think of like the worst case. And
Mhm.
really, I was thinking about this before a couple of days ago, I was thinking about this episode. It's interesting because the worst case scenario, I guess, would be that you died. I guess that's the worst, right?
Mhm.
That's probably never, like whatever you're thinking, that's probably not going to happen. Then the next worst would be what? You go broke, or you end up homeless. Like the odds of all these, like it's probably like, yeah, could that happen? Of course, but you could get hit by a bus tomorrow too, and that's like anything could happen. But
Anything
like
could.
the worst case is probably off the table. But yet that's like what we hold on to. It's like, oh well, if I move to another country, or I leave this relationship, or I leave this job, well then I won't find anyone, or the person I'll find will be worse, or the job will be worse. I'll have less money, or like you start painting all the, oh well, all this shit, this could really go bad. So I should hold on. I should really hold on to what I've got because it could be
Mhm.
worse, which is true. But what you're talking about, which is such a great point, is like it actually could be better, and that's the part that we ignore.
We do. And we're so great at all the what ifs that could go wrong that we forget about, like, well, what if it did work out? What if it was actually better than I imagined? What if this was possible?
Yeah.
But we so easily go to the negative and worry, and it's I get it. It is difficult to let that go and just have that faith and just move forward. Um but it's beautiful. I have a story that I tell. When I was in Australia, I'd come back from Bali. I was stung by a scorpion, so I was
Ooh.
in pain and I was sick, and I had $100 to my name. And I felt this call to go to Margaret River. And so I showed up in Margaret River with $100 sick and sitting on a bench. I had no plan.
This
The
is in
hostels were all full.
this is in Australia.
This was in Australia.
Okay.
It's a little town on the southwestern coast, just below Perth. And yeah, I was sitting on a bench. I didn't know all the hostels were booked because there was a surf competition. But I just trusted. Again, I was like, I don't know what is going to happen. Something is going to work out. And it did and better than if I had planned it. And I find that there's so many experiences in my life that when you let go of that expectation and just trust what is calling you forward and pulling you forward, that the outcome on the other side is really beautiful and more than you can even imagine.
But we got to know what happened. You're sitting on the bench with $100 with the scorpions thing. Like, what happened?
So within an hour, I think it was maybe an hour or two, someone walked by and who asked me where I was going. And I was like, I don't know. He's
Nowhere.
like, there's no buses coming. And I was like, well, I actually just arrived. And anyways, he had a place to stay. And it was funny because he was coming to Canada. He was Australian, but he was moving to Canada. And so I ended up taking over his room in the house with a group of people. And the next day I had a job at a pub down the road. And I had an amazing 4 months in Margaret River before I hitchhiked across to
That's incredible.
Melbourne.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think I'd still be sitting there. I'd be out of the 100. Yeah, I mean that's perfect, right? Like that's just, yeah, it just worked out.
It just worked out. And again, it's because of the belief. I strongly believed. I didn't know what, but I was like, something will work out. It always does.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
The TED Talk the guy gives, the story's pretty simplified, but he was like in a coffee shop and he saw this girl that he liked and she was with a couple other people. It didn't seem like she was with a guy. And he said normally, he just would have walked out and not thought about it again, but he was in this like phase of bold action. And so he wrote his number down like on a card or paper or something and like interrupted their conversation and was like, hey, I saw you walk in. You probably have a boyfriend. If you don't, here's my number. And gave it to her. She took it and he left. And that was it. And she ended up texting him like several hours later, and then they started dating, and they dated for like 2 years. So he was like, again, simple, but like that he was rewarded basically by just, and that's not even that bold, but like most people wouldn't.
People wouldn't.
What's funny is I was reminded, I hadn't thought about this story in so long. I was in my early 20s, and when I was going to bars, and I was out with a friend, and then we met up accidentally with a guy that I worked with, and he was with a big group of people. So like all of us were together, and this girl that was part of their group was talking to me and asking questions, and like I was single and like did I want a girlfriend, all this kind of stuff. So she was like, well, we'll find you someone. Like I'm going to find you somebody to talk to. Like that became like her mission. And I was like, I'm all set. Like I'm good. I'm fine. And so she started like scouting the bar, and she finally found this girl that was like at the other end of the bar. She was like, what about her? I was like, I don't know. I can't tell. She's like 50 feet away. I don't know. Maybe. She's like, well, just go talk to her. And I was like, oh, I would never do that. Like, no way. She was like, why not? I was like, what do you mean, why not? Like my ego and my like pride can't take it. If she doesn't want to talk to me and she's like, get out of here, or they laugh at me, like I'm not prepared for that type of rejection. Like, I don't know. She was like, that's crazy. She was like, she's probably not even going to do that. How do you know she's not your soulmate? I was like, I think that's probably just not likely. But that's probably not. She was like, but you don't know. Like, she could be great. She could be like the perfect fit for you. I was like, I mean, yeah, in theory, you could be right, but you probably aren't. But we're not going to find out. But anyway, as I was watching that TED Talk, I for some reason thought of that specific instance. And I mean, she tried for probably like 20 minutes. She was like, you have to go talk to her. Like, just, you don't even have to hit her with a cheesy line. Just put your hand out and say your name. And like, it's nice to meet you. And like, what's your name? Like that, literally that simple. And like, she'll either talk to you or she won't, but it doesn't matter. And if the worst case is she's like, I have a boyfriend or I'm married or whatever. And then you walk back and talk to me and it'll be like that never happened. I was like, well, no, see, you skipped the part about where like, I now have the rejection. She's like, but it doesn't matter. I was like, it does. And so it's just so funny. Like we try to protect ourselves so much. It's just
Yes,
crazy.
we do. And that's such a good point. And it's, well, what is rejection, right? The meaning that we attach to the word no keeps us playing small.
Mm,
Right, because we make it about us where it's not. Like, who knows, maybe the girl had a boyfriend, who knows, but it's not really about you. She doesn't even know you. You
yep.
just went up and said your name and she was just like, sorry, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything about you or your worth or any of that, but we make it about us, and then we don't
Yeah.
take those actions, take those steps.
We get in our own way, and we get in our own heads, and then that's a bad place. That's a bad place to be. My friend Jill, she's in South Carolina. She wrote a post last week, and it said, "Your gut." I'm going to screw the quote up, but you'll get the point. Your gut is telling you the answer, and it's up to you to listen. Something like that.
Yeah,
And I thought about how true that is because so oftentimes, like our intuition, our gut, whatever internal feeling is like leading us or pulling us in a direction. And I've had this happen so many times in my life. And then your logical, the analytics, the data, the logical part just totally overrides it. And it just
totally.
totally like, nope, like tamps it down, stuffs it away. It's like, no,
Mhm.
that doesn't make any logical sense. And then I've done it so much and it's almost always been wrong. My brain, like the analytical decision is typically always been wrong, almost
Yeah,
always. So it's like,
it generally is. And
yeah,
so it's listening to that, into that voice,
yeah,
and taking quicker action. And this is, I'm still learning to do this, of just hearing that and just moving on it and not giving myself that time to talk yourself out of it or talk to someone else about it, or right,
yeah.
it's just listening and trusting and then taking action on that, and again, you will be rewarded.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm like the leader in the clubhouse on that too. It's like I always run it past somebody because I want their affirmation that it's like on the right track, which is crazy because it's not even up to them. Like they have such a limited insight into what I'm even talking about. It doesn't even matter. Even if they were like, "Yep, that's the greatest idea I've ever heard," it's not coming from any place of validity. So it's like, why do I even care? Why am I even doing that? Like, this is what I think, this is what I feel, so I should just do it and then like whatever. But you're like, oh, I'll call so and so, or I'll text so and so, or I'll send a LinkedIn DM like, hey, I'm thinking about this offer, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think about that? It's irrelevant. It is totally irrelevant what they think, good or
Yeah,
bad or indifferent. It's like, if that's what you feel, do it and then do something
do
else.
it.
But like, John Q Public or John Q LinkedIn or John Q Neighbor or whoever, like it's not, that's not their place because they don't, it's impossible for them. They can't know what you're feeling. So like, yeah, they can give you an opinion, but it's based on such limited information, which is mostly what you're telling them. So now they're going to think about that and be like, that probably does sound crazy. Like that probably doesn't sound like a great idea. Like if you just give them this like Cliff Notes version, like, all right, this is what I'm thinking. And they have no idea what got you to that point because you don't have time to get into all that. You're just like, well, this is the idea. Yeah, they're probably like, yeah, that doesn't sound great.
Hmm.
Yeah, I doubt that's going to work. Of course, they're going to say that. Like, probably doesn't sound like it's going to work. And then you're like, oh, that was a bad idea. And then you don't do it. It's
And
nuts.
then you don't do it, and then you see someone else do it and you're like, oh,
Fuck.
why didn't I just do that? Yeah, because they're seeing it from their fears and their limitations and their, their own little world view. And so why listen to them? It's trusting yourself and
Y-
acting quickly.
Yeah, that reminded me. Have you read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert? She's the
Yeah.
Eat Pray Love. So
Oh yeah.
Big Magic, my takeaway, I didn't finish it, but I got close to finishing that one. But the one thing I remember from that book, and this has never occurred to me, but what you just said about the idea is she talks about like ideas are not individual to you. So like
Mm,
they're general. So like, and she told stories about like people who have like book ideas and they don't write it, but then like a couple years later, like almost the exact book gets written, and they're like, hey, that person like stole my idea, and it's like, no, 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 that idea came to you, and then you didn't act on it. Well, that idea is just like out there. It came to
floating
someone
around.
else, and then they did it, and that has really fucked with me because I think about like all of the ideas that I've had that I haven't done, and I'm like, I wonder if it's out there. Like, did that go to somebody else and then they did it? And that like when I read that, this has been a few years ago. that really got to me. I was like, oh, like that's not my idea. It's just an idea. And I haven't
Mhm.
chosen to do like much with any of them. Um, so that was like kind of creeped me out, but in a good way.
Yeah, I know it is. I do remember that story, and it's true. And so it's how can you close that gap between idea and action,
Yeah.
right? And then, that's where the clarity comes, right? You're like, okay, well, this is coming to me, so I'm going to start moving towards this. And then, you pivot, you take steps here, 2 steps left or whatever, but you figure it out as you go along.
Yeah.
Um, but it's how can you just start acting on those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. We'll wrap it up here. So I wrote the post last week or week before about that in a 1.5 to 2 generations, it's like we never lived. And I'd heard that before, and then I was reading an Audible book on Stoicism, and then whatever the author was basically just reiterated it. But it hit me a little bit different, and then I thought of my great grandparents, and I told this story because my great grandparents were born in the early 1900s, and then if assuming I outlive like my parents and my like aunts and uncles, like when I die, I basically am the last. I'll be the last living person that remembers my grandparents. And because everybody had kids young, I did spend time with them. I was 8 when my great grandfather died. I was 13. My grandmother died, so I do know them, and I remember conversation with them, and I spent time with them. So like I remember them, not just that they existed. Um, and so I was like, oh, like literally. So, and I said, if I died in 2055, so 30 years from now, that'll be almost exactly 150 years from when they were born. And then I die, and then it will be as if they never lived. Like it's like
Yeah.
no one will know that they lived. So it's like on the one hand, that's kind of depressing. And on the other hand, it's like it should be kind of motivating because it's like, well, if it doesn't, not that it doesn't matter, but if like nobody's really going to remember it anyway, and I have all of these like hopes and dreams and visions, what the fuck am I waiting on? Because it's not really going
Yeah.
to matter. But then we still don't do it. Like it's just insane.
Yeah, because it's easier to stay where we are and just think about it and want it than actually take the steps to go after it. What
Yeah.
would you do if you like with that in mind, like what would you do if you weren't afraid?
Yeah. I had that question recently. I used to have a hard time answering it. Now it's pretty clear. Like I would I would record probably 2 to 3 podcast episodes every week because I love this so much. I would do public speaking, and it would be a mix of like motivation and like entertainment or some kind of hybrid. And I would do some stand up comedy. I would start trying to go to clubs and try to tell funny stories. Um,
Mhm.
that would be a majority of my like working time and effort would be on basically those like 3 activities.
Which you're doing, which is amazing. So you're
Yeah, I'm
doing
getting
it,
closer.
yeah, moving more.
Not getting paid for any of them, but if I wasn't afraid or if I knew for sure it would work out, then yeah, I would just quit my job today, and that would just be
Mhm.
that'd be my whole ecosystem. And that's my long-term ecosystem anyway. Because this is the first podcast episode I've recorded in 2 months. I took a little bit of a break because of the holidays, and then I started this job, and that kind of messed with me and my schedule, and like a lot of other things kind of came up. And so I kind of stopped the show, and so it took me almost like it took me like a month of going through the emotions of having to work in an office 40 hours a week, um, like to calibrate
Yeah.
that and be like, all right, this is kind of my temporary new reality, but I have to keep moving towards what I want. And so honestly, I almost couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited to record this because it's like I love this so much. But it felt good because like I felt alive, and I was like, all right, like this will
Yes.
offset like the way I feel like most of the time, like during the day.
Yeah.
And so that's how I know that I'm close. That's how I know that I'm like getting closer because you measure like your feeling and your energy around it. And I didn't do that for a long time. I really ignored my energy in terms of activities. I would just be like, well, this sucks, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I just didn't really give that enough time to like be like, this is very draining for me. So I probably shouldn't be doing it. Instead, it was
Mhm.
like, this is really draining for me. I think I'll try it for another 3 years.
Think I'll just keep going and yeah, I'll just push through it and
Yes.
this is what it's supposed to be like and I
Everybody's going through it and it sucks.
yeah,
But
I've got a job, I've
yeah,
got whatever. Yeah. So it's
I'll have that drink at 6 o'clock, and that'll make me feel good for like 15 minutes. And
yeah.
that's it. That'll be worth it. Then that's my what I look forward to like all day. And then I'll do the same thing tomorrow. And then the weekend, I'll have 2 drinks. So
Mhm.
uh, so like that's the true like definition of playing small.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What would you do?
Well, for me right now, it's doing more video and just putting myself out there, being more visible, because
Mm,
that's definitely been one of my journeys, even before I even started posting on LinkedIn. Like the work up to that, to start posting, and then how I showed up in the beginning to a year later.
yeah.
And now it's, yeah, I'm just feeling called to do it in a different way and to speak more
Yeah.
and to express myself, yeah, through video and that expression, creativity.
Yeah, it's the posting is hard for a lot of people. Excuse me. It's just hard. It's hard to put
Mhm.
yourself out there and tell your story, and that's kind of what I'm working on. Is I've experienced that. This summer will be 3 years on LinkedIn. Getting ready to write my 500th post in the not too distant future. So I spent a lot of time on the platform. I've written a lot, and what I've seen is that most people aren't really telling like their real story. They're holding a significant part of it back because they're afraid judgment. People see it. What will they think? Embarrassment, shame. Like, I'll leave that part out. But ironically, that's the part, especially if you're trying to run a business, you're trying to sign clients, whether it's coaching, consulting, whatever. That typically is what is going to draw the people that you want to work with or that want to work with you the most are going to be drawn to those what you think they're quirky or unique or embarrassing or shame, whatever you're feeling about it. Other people are going to see that as like, oh yeah, like, I did that too, or I felt that too, or I went through something similar, and then that becomes your differentiator and the uniqueness that draws them to you. If you just keep it on the surface, and that's why I call this podcast the Underlayer, because
I love it.
so much of my life was lived like on this surface level, and a lot of us, I think, especially publicly and even sometimes privately, like we don't let people in. We don't really show them. My other podcast was called The Real You, which is about the mask we wear. Like we just
Mhm.
we're pretty good at like trying to mask and hide because we're like, I don't like you. What if this person doesn't like that part of me, or like what if this is, I don't know.
Mm.
Like there's again, it just we get into this like worst case scenario. Like what if this person doesn't like me, or what if this company doesn't like me? And so when I was working, I was rarely ever myself. I was always like fitting in, and then my parents were divorced, so I was like a different person, like with like all these different factors of my family and my friends and school and work. And I was wearing like 10 masks. It's like exhausting. Um,
Yes.
but when you're telling your story online, it's not like you have to share like every single intimate detail. It's not that, but there is a personal side and there's a uniqueness to all of
Mm.
our journeys that no one else can tell, right? And that's the part, like that's how you stand out, because that's the part that people will be like, oh, I didn't know that. That is fascinating to me. Like leaving such a young age and going and traveling like that is like that's fascinating to me because I would not have done that. Like I would do it now. I would not have done that like at that time in my life. Like I would have been too afraid. Like I wouldn't have left. Um, so to me, it's like, oh my God, that's tell me more. I want to know more. I want to hear more of those stories. Like that's really fascinating to me. And I can't be the only one. So it's like that's the part, not that you, but like you in general, people out there are like, you have these things unique to
Mhm.
you, but like if you don't share them, they're, no one will know.
Yeah. No, exactly. And so there's a couple of things that I think about there. And one, in my experience too, it was like, okay, well, I have to start showing up because there was a lot of fear around that. So how can I start taking action in a way that feels comfortable, and then you evolve? And so now I am more comfortable and I want to share more about who I am and having that personality. But I think you have to start somewhere,
Yeah.
and then let that evolve as you grow and you get more comfortable,
Yeah.
because you can't go, your nervous system wouldn't handle it. Like if I went from zero to just start
Correct.
sharing, I
Yeah.
I think I would have retreated. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
There's a little bit of that. I mean, you do have to start, we have to start somewhere, and you're typically not just going to be like, all right, here's the whole life story.
Here's the whole
Um,
every
so yeah, you ease your way into that, but I think the sooner you can get there, the better. Because again, and especially now with all the AI content, and it's just the content. A lot of the content is just boring, and it's the same
it
stuff,
is.
and you're just like,
I
oh my
agree.
god. Um,
I
but
agree.
yeah. So before I let you go, I want to know more about that. Is that like a painting? Those elephants in the background are really,
Yes.
yeah. I love that. It's super colorful and um, what is, yeah. More, I want to hear more about that. What is that?
The painting.
Yeah.
So actually, I love elephants. I have
Hmm.
elephants all over my house. I really love elephants. And one of my friends, her daughter, who was in high school at the time, I commissioned her and she painted this for
Oh
me.
wow.
And it was, yeah, right around when I separated and my son was young. And anyway, so she painted
Oh no,
this.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we could probably go another couple hours on this topic, but we'll we'll stop it here. Um, I really super appreciate you coming on, sharing part of your journey, your insight. I got a lot out of it. I know the listeners will too. Thank you so much for your time and energy.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And yes, I could go on and talk about this forever with you, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks. And then if people are interested, finding you, learning more about your work, what's the best place where to reach you? Obviously, you're on LinkedIn, but any other places where they could reach out?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, my website, jodiwilding.com, and then stay tuned. My YouTube channel will be starting very soon.
Video Jody is
Video stuff,
coming
yeah,
soon. And you have to do
yeah,
it now after being on this show. And this podcast is
I
coming out
know.
next week. So this is not going to
Yeah.
sit this is not going to sit for a while. So this is going to be out and about. And you're going to be on YouTube whether you like it or not, because this video is going up. So
There you
this is
go.
pretty much ripping the band-aid off. And then you're doing the retreat. Talk about the retreat.
Yes, I'm super excited. So this has been a vision of mine for a while. It's in Portugal. I did go on a retreat last year in Spain, and now we're hosting it in Portugal. And for women in business to just get together and get that clarity and focus on exactly what we talked about, like who are you and what are you bringing into this world and what's the impact you want to make, and
Awesome.
how can you have that confidence and courage to to create it.
That's amazing. If I was a woman in business, I would have already signed up.
Well, maybe we'll open it up next year, but yeah, it is great. It's a great opportunity to get away and create in Portugal.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So I've never gone on a retreat. I hear great things, but I don't know what really happens on them. But they sound good. And so last year, there was a woman I know. She's in San Francisco, and she was doing a retreat in Mexico City. And so I seriously thought about going, and I was still running my business, and they were going to have a lot of smart people there, and it seemed like it was pretty aligned. And they had 11 women, and if I had gone, I was going to be the only guy,
I know.
and I couldn't do it. Like it just didn't.
Really?
I just felt like I would be. I don't want to say in the way, but it would be like the only guy, and like I don't know.
Oh.
I felt out of place. Or I felt
I went on, it was a weekend retreat and there was way more women. Maybe there was like 30 of us and there was one male.
so 29 women and one guy,
Yeah.
and
And it was
it
amazing. It
wasn't
was
weird.
great.
No,
Not at all.
hmm.
Not at all.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't that worried about it. My wife was a little. My wife was a little bit like, yeah, I don't know. Like that's awkward and like staying because it's like it's a small place and she's kind of there all the time. Like, I don't know. It just
Right.
I ended up not going. It didn't work out. But anyway, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but the Portugal retreat sounds top shelf.
Yeah. It will. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Awesome.
And
I,
maybe we'll see you in Portugal.
I'll just be there like on the side. Like, Jody's running the retreat. I'm just gonna hang out over here and I'll like mingle when you're not retreating.
Yeah. It's time. It's time. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you so
Thanks,
much.
Jody.